Amelia Perez, nominees to be determined.
Don't nominate anyone.
Producers.
I'm still here. Nominees to
Huh? What? 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 Huh?
Come on. Nickel Boys, nominees to be
Nickel Boys? Oh my god, what is this lineup?
the substance. Nominees to be determined.
Wait, so what missed?
And Wicked, Mark Platt,
Oh.
producer.
How? I'm still here. What? Yeah, so I have no idea what the hell happened this morning. This batch of nominations is probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen. In all the years that I have been following the Oscars. Man, 2024 was quite the awards race, and let me tell you, there's so much to break down here that I'm still processing, so bear with me. We're going to, hatch this out together, all right? Let's talk about this and kind of feel things out here. And, of course, as every year, I'm going to start with, the tech categories and move up the ladder, so to speak. And I'm going to start with Best Visual Effects. And the nominees for Best Visual Effects are Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. Now, I don't think that this lineup is too surprising, if I'm being completely honest. I think Dune Part 2 easily wins this. I mean, I don't know how it can't. If there's any Oscar momentum that Dune has going for it, it is more than certainly in visual effects. Some of the most groundbreaking visual effects you will ever see in any film. To be quite honest, this really set a standard in the way that James Cameron did with the Avatar movies. Maybe not quite to creating those photorealistic environments, but in the melding of the practical and CGI, I don't think that there's been anything that has been so seamless and completely obliterates that line between the two. Really not too surprised to see Wicked in here, but I was wondering if Gladiator would catch a little momentum. We'll get into that a little bit in some other categories. But yeah, I think that this is a very good lineup. Glad to see Alien Romulus got in there despite the Ian Holm thing, which is still a little questionable to me, but I really do think the rest of the visual effects in that movie are great. Better Man, I mean, if you saw my out-of-theater reaction, you should remember I'm not a huge fan of that movie, but I really did think the visual effects were quite spectacular and very, very seamless in the film. And of course, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, what needs to be said about that? I mean, those are some of the most stunning visual effects you ever get in any movie, and I think in any other year this would be winning the category, but Dune Part 2 exists, so that's that. And then for Best Film Editing, we have Anora, The Brutalist, Conclave, Amelia Perez, and Wicked. This category is a little dog shit, if I'm being honest, because one, the Academy didn't choose to nominate The Substance, which I believe to be the best edited film of the year, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, except the editing branch, apparently. And I also think to myself, how does Dune Part 2 lose a Best Editing nomination to both Wicked and Amelia Perez? I mean, that is kind of mind-boggling to me. Now, I will say I did predict The Brutalist, and I'm really glad to see it in there because even though that movie isn't necessarily the most edited film, I think all the cuts are very purposeful and really makes a over 3.5 hour long movie feel so engaging and well-paced, and so I am really, really glad to see that nomination. Glad to see Sean Baker get one as well in some ways, and I don't know, I just think that this is a very, very strange category now that Dune Part 2 is out, and with the AI controversy surrounding The Brutalist, which we'll get into a little bit, what is going to win here? I still think The Brutalist has the juice to do it. I certainly hope that Amelia Perez doesn't, but considering it got 13 fucking nominations, I don't think we can quite count that out. Wicked, not bad, but, there are better nominees. I really think Conclave could win this. I think that every single cut in that movie felt so purposeful in the way it built tension and in the intent behind each cut, and the fact it didn't get into cinematography, we'll get into that as well. I really do think that this could be the one award that it wins outside of screenplay. Yet again, this is such an unpredictable race. Who is to say? But if it were up to me, I would be voting Conclave to get the Oscar for this one. And then in Best Costume Design, we have A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. Now, this isn't really that big of a surprise, if I'm being entirely honest, because I definitely expected a lot of these nominees, except The Complete Unknown. But you know what? I really do think the period detail in that film, the way they capture the 60s with the costume, the iconic Dylan outfits, I really do understand why it was nominated, but yet again, it is a little unfortunate that they didn't go with Dune Part 2 here. This is going to be a common reoccurring thread throughout this video, but yeah, I don't think that this is bad. I am just surprised that this is the only nomination that Gladiator 2 got, which is kind of insane to me, considering we originally thought it was going to be nominated for at least 5 awards when it came out. But regardless, that's another thing I will get into, and yeah, there's not much to speak of in this category, but I really do think it is going to go to Wicked, because, I mean, there's so many vibrant costumes, the way they created Oz, you know, there's so much detail there, and I just think it has the most costumes out of any of these movies, and I think, honestly, it would be a deserving win, even though I think Gladiator 2 would be more than deserving as well. But, you know, it is what it is, and I think Wicked is going to take this one. And for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, the nominees are A Different Man, Emilia Perez, Nosferatu, The Substance, and Wicked. Another category that isn't entirely unsurprising, but I do think that there are a couple, actually no, there are a couple of nominees I was really surprised that, you know, didn't make the cut, and that being Beetlejuice, the first movie of which won the Oscar for Best Makeup and Hairstyling back in, you know, the late 80s. And so, to me, that's kind of a head-scratcher, but also Dune Part 2. I mean, come on, are we going to continue to snub this movie in every category possible? I don't know. But I will say, I think a lot of these nominees are very deserving. Glad to see Nosferatu getting all these tech nominations. I think the makeup, especially on Bill Skarsgård, who completely disappears into the role of Count Orlok, I think is very well deserved. A Different Man as well. The way they make, you know, Sebastian stand out in the first half of that movie, I really do think that it is incredible work. But we all know what's winning here. It's The Substance. This is one of the greatest achievements in makeup that I've ever seen, and I think that we will ever see in cinematic history. This is up there with An American Werewolf in London. This is up there with The Fly. The reason that this category was created, essentially, and I will be more than happy to see this take the award for Best Makeup and Hairstyling home in a cakewalk. And in the category for Best Cinematography, we have The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Maria, and Nosferatu. Now, this category, yet again, not entirely surprising. I'm not surprised Maria got that sole cinematography nomination, the first of the Pablo Larraín Women trilogy to not get a Best Actress nomination, and there's very many reasons why that didn't happen, of course. But of course, the cinematography branch loves Ed Lachman. He got nominated last year for El Conde, which not many people were expecting, but it really lined up with ASC. So there's a lot there that kind of signified that he would be getting this nomination. But Emilia Perez, I mean, it looks good, right? And I'm not completely upset about it. But over Conclave, I think that's a little ridiculous. Conclave has the best blocking of the entire year, in my opinion. And I really don't know how that got in over it. Very glad to see Nosferatu. I mean, that's some of the most stunning cinematography you will see in any motion picture, may I say, in last year. But I really do think this category comes down to Dune Part 2 and Low Crowley for The Brutalist. I mean, Greg Fraser's already won for the first Dune, but this is one of the best shot movies of all time. I really would say it would be a bit disappointing if it didn't win, but I also look at The Brutalist and think it's such a monumental achievement in filmmaking. The scope, everything about it. There's so many amazing tracks throughout that movie that go on for like minutes on end and don't cut. So I really do think Lowell Crowley would be quite deserving of this Oscar, and I won't be upset if he wins, but I really do have to emphasize how much I think Dune Part 2 is one of the best shot movies of all time. But who knows, in years to come, I think The Brutalist will be considered that as well, if it's not already. So either way, I think, you know, Greg Fraser or Lowell Crowley would be deserving to win in this category. But as of now, I'm going to say Lowell Crowley is going to take this award. And then for Best Production Design, we have The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. Okay, so I have some thoughts on this one because I think these are all on paper very deserving nominees. I mean, they literally recreated the Vatican for Conclave, but if there was one that I would take out, it would be Conclave, because to me, even though I didn't love this movie, I mean, Conclave I think is a masterpiece, right? But Gladiator 2, it's not a great movie, but my goodness, they fucking recreated Rome. I mean, how can you deny how great that is? I would give that the win for production design, quite frankly, and I think it's a little ridiculous that it didn't get nominated. Yeah, I know it's not a great movie, but you gotta give credit where credit's due, and I really do think that's definitely one of the biggest tech snubs of this entire Oscar morning. But with that being said, I really do think Wicked is more than deserving of this win. I actually do think I'd put it above Gladiator 2 in some regard, just because they really recreated the Land of Oz from the ground up. And even though the cinematography, I think, distracts a little bit, very glad not to see it there. I really do think that it is such an amazing achievement how they built these sets, how they put it together. It's all practical, and yeah, there's really no denying how great that is in that regard. So I think that this award is another easy win for Wicked. One of its 10 nominations, which, I mean, job well done for Wicked. It was really, really a great turnout this morning for that movie, and yeah, I think this is definitely Wicked's award to lose. And for Best Sound, the nominees are A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. Now, this is quite an interesting category. A lot of these I expected, specifically A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, and Wicked. Once again, another category where Emilia Perez is overperforming. What a surprise. I really do think that this is a little unfortunate, though, because I really do think even though Blitz by Steve McQueen, it's not a great movie, I'm kind of glad it was goose-egged, but at the same time, it really did deserve a sound nomination, especially seeing that in like Dolby Atmos. Like, the sound design in that movie is incredible, so I really would have loved to swap that out with Emilia Perez in that fifth slot, but it is what it is. And of course, we all know The Substance had the best sound design of the entire year, but it wasn't shortlisted, so yeah, I think really this category comes down to Dune Part 2 winning. I think that this is one of the categories where it's absolutely safe, and I don't really see anything else taking this award. But it is a little unfortunate that Blitz missed, that's all. But I really do think that The Wild Robot was quite a welcome surprise, and it really makes me wonder how the animated feature race is going to shape up this year, based on a couple of factors, which we will get into momentarily. But before we get into those categories, we also have to do the other music categories, starting with Best Original Song, and the nominees from that are El Mal from Emilia Perez, The Journey from 6888, Like a Bird from Sing Sing, Mi Camino from Emilia Perez, and Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late. This is a very interesting category. I got a lot of my predictions wrong. I mean, of course, the two Emilia Perez songs, I think El Mal is winning. Is it a deserving winner? I don't really think so. I mean, I'm sure that there are better songs in this category. There were better songs that weren't even shortlisted that didn't make it. And also songs like Compress Repress. I mean, yet again, don't even get me fucking started about challengers, alright? I am not happy about that. But this is one of the categories where I saw Sing Sing show up. I thought, oh, maybe it could turn up in Best Picture. Well, we'll get into that later as well. But I was glad to see the Wild Robot song did not show up here because that is just a generic pop song. But Elton John and Bernie Taupin and company getting another nomination, that's pretty cool. I have to watch the documentary at some point, but I'll get around to it eventually, I'm sure. Diane Warren getting her, I want to say, 10th consecutive Oscar nomination. I mean, this woman doesn't miss. I don't know what she's cooking. Not always that much, to be honest, but you know she's always going to get it any year, so there's no reason to doubt her. As I said, I think this is Al Mal. It's going to win. Emilia Perez this is a category where it's just going to win. I mean, what else can I say? But regardless, we'll move on to Best Original Score, and the nominees for that are Daniel Blumberg for The Brutalist, Volker Bertelmann for Conclave, Clement Ducal and Camille for Emilia Perez, John Powell and Stephen Schwartz for Wicked, and Chris Bowers for The Wild Robot. How can you tell me that the score for Challengers by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross does not deserve to be in Best Original Score? I mean, the fact that Dune Part 2 was taken off the shortlist because it is too derivative, it has too many themes from the original movie, why the fuck is Wicked nominated? I mean, yeah, Stephen Schwartz, you know, it's nice to give him his flowers. He already got his flowers probably at the Tonys over 20 years ago when this score was originally conceived. I mean, to me, this is absolutely fucking ludicrous. I don't even know how something like Challengers even miss it. Dune Part 2, alright, but why is Wicked in here? Like, really, that is such hypocritical bullshit. I really don't understand. And it's nothing against the movie and Wicked. John Powell, Stephen Schwartz, all respect to them. But this does not deserve to be in Best Original Score. I really do think if there was a score like when they used to have Best Score Adaptation, like for West Side Story or something back in the fucking 60s, this would have been okay. But no, I mean, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross created one of the most propulsive, you know, heart-thumping, just head-banging scores of the entire year, and this really shows that the Academy's not hip at all, at least the music branch, because they're like, oh, we're not going to nominate techno. I mean, this is fucking bullshit. I'm so mad about this. But I will say, and I've been saying this for such a long time, that I really do think that this is Daniel Blumberg's award to lose. I think The Brutalist, after seeing it again, I think this film is as close to being a masterpiece as you could possibly get on rewatch. And that score is really an all-timer for me. I think that this is the best score I've heard in any movie probably since The Shape of Water back in 2017. It's just one of those all-time classic film scores that I think will be remembered as such. And yeah, I really do think that nobody else deserves to win this award. Even if Challengers was in this category, I still feel like Daniel Blumberg would be the one to beat, and the one who deservedly should win this award. And for Best Documentary Feature Film, the nominees are Black Box Diaries, No Other Land, Porcelain War, Soundtrack to a Coup d'Etat, and Sugarcane. Now, this one, a little surprising. I mean, there's always that one nominee that gets in every year that we don't expect. Last year was To Kill a Tiger, which made my top 10 of 2023, funnily enough. And this year's Porcelain War, which I almost got a chance to see, but unfortunately I didn't eventually get to it. But this is actually really disappointing to me, not because Porcelain War got in, because I'm sure it's a great film. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. But the fact that Daughters is not here, that was one of the most moving films I saw from all of 2024. It was probably the film that I got the most emotional watching. I mean, I cried a couple times watching that film. And so, this is really upsetting to me because I feel like now people aren't going to see Daughters because it doesn't have that visibility on it. And it truly is a shame because out of all the nominees there, all the movies that are there, and I'd pick Daughters. I really would. I think it was just one of the most moving pieces of cinema from all last year. But No Other Land, I mean, there's no denying how great and powerful that film is, how timely it is, considering the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, which thankfully has come to ceasefire, from my understanding. But yeah, this is such a powerful piece of activism that I just think on any account it should win the award. But Porcelain War is kind of about, you know, the Ukrainian conflict as well, which is still ongoing. So I don't know. I do think that this is No Other Land's award to lose. It's been racking up all the wins at all the different ceremonies. And yeah, it would be very deserving as such. I'm just really disappointed to see that Daughters didn't make this lineup, especially over Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, because I feel like that film, at least for me, I appreciated the experimental nature of it all, but I really was not a huge fan of it. And I felt like maybe like this other film, you know, this very powerful story about incarcerated fathers, you know, trying to learn how to become readjusted and you know, become better fathers, more present in their daughters and in their children's lives in general. I don't know. I really do think that there is a lot to unpack on Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, but I am just disappointed that Daughters missed the cut. Anyway, No Other Land, it's going to win. And for Best International Film, we have I'm Still Here from Brazil, The Girl with the Needle from Denmark, Emilia Perez from France, The Seed of the Sacred Fig from Germany, and Flow from Latvia. This was quite a surprise, I will say, especially Flow getting in here, which really makes me wonder how strong it is an animated feature. But yeah, I really didn't expect that to happen. All the other ones, I think everyone was kind of expecting. Girl with the Needle, not too surprised, but really sad not to see Kneecap make this list, because I think that would have been my pick for international feature had it been, you know, amongst these nominees. But we all, well, do we know what's winning this category? Because we'll get into it later. One of the biggest surprises of Oscar nomination morning, but this is, I believe, one of the first, maybe the first time where there are two Best Picture nominees in an international feature film. But I think as of now, it's safe to just go with Emilia Perez because it has 13 Oscar nominations for some reason. And yeah, this almost seems like a no-brainer, but I'm Still Here. Who knows? I think the passion for that movie could, you know, continue to surge throughout awards season. And I really do think that maybe Emilia Perez will kind of have a come down, but I don't know, because it's still the most nominated movie this entire Oscars year for some reason, and I don't know, I'm still going to go with Emilia Perez for now. And that will bring us to Best Animated Feature Film, and the nominees are as follows: Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. This is easily the most no-brainer category of this entire morning. Everyone knew this was going to be the 5. There was nothing else that was getting in. And honestly, I have a strong feeling that Flow could win, even though I think it's easily the weakest of all these movies. I mean, it's just animals being cute. And look, the animation is amazing. I will say I've never seen anything like it. It's really groundbreaking in that regard. And I think the director seems like a very wholesome guy and really passionate about the art of animation and film in general. So I think in that regard, it could win, and I wouldn't be upset at that fact, but I just think that this narrative is so lacking in a lot of ways that, to me, I think it would be a bit unfortunate, because I think every other movie in this category is astronomically better. I love all these other movies, especially Memoir of a Snail, which I think is the best animated film of this entire decade so far. So I don't know, I feel a little bit split on it, but personally I'm rooting for The Wild Robot to win. And look, this is the thing, Wild Robot got a score nomination and sound, so it's kind of hard to say which one is going to win. I want to say Wild Robot because that's what my heart is going to go with, But I don't know. Don't be surprised if Flo takes this. I don't know. It won the Golden Globe. Same thing with Boy and the Heron. I don't know. It's kind of hard to bet against. We can't really say that the Globes don't matter anymore, especially with this international contingency that has joined at this point in time. So, I don't want to say Flo, but I'm just going to hope Dick and say Wild Robot for now. And I really do think that it still has the potential to take this award home. And now we are getting into the big categories. So I'm going to kick this off with Best Adapted Screenplay, in which the nominees are A Complete Unknown, screenplay by James Mangold and Jay Cox; Conclave, screenplay by Peter Strawn; Amelia Perez, screenplay by Jacques Audiard in collaboration with Thomas Bidegain, Leah Macisis, and Nicholas Levici; Nickel Boys, screenplay by Ramel Ross and Jocelyn Barnes; and Sing Sing, screenplay by Clint Bentley, Greg Quaidar, story by Clint Bentley, Greg Quaidar, Clarence Macklin, and John Devangy Whitfeld. Yeah, this is a very interesting category because Amelia Perez doesn't fucking deserve to be here. But I will say that, I really was not necessarily surprised to see Sing Sing, but I thought after the song nomination and screenplay that it was going to do a little bit better. I'm just pissed that Dune Part 2 didn't fucking get in, even though the first one did, and obviously, I think that's one of the best screenplays of the entire year. So, riddle me why, all of a sudden, these movies that are much less of quality start sneaking into this category. I don't understand. I really don't. And look, I mean, maybe it was too unreasonable for me to predict Dune Part 2, but I was really holding on to hope. Because it's so much better than the first one. I get it was a COVID year, but really, it deserves to be here. I think most people would agree with that. More so than A Complete Unknown. More so than Amelia Perez, most certainly. So that was really disappointing. Though I will say I am very happy to see that Clarence Macklin at least did get an Oscar nomination this morning, even if it wasn't for the category that I think he should have been nominated in, which was Best Supporting Actor. But I really do think that this is easily Conclave's award to lose. It's the best screenplay of the entire year, if you're asking me. And the fact that it won the Golden Globe over, stuff like Anora and The Brutalist and A Real Pain, which are in the other, completely different category, I think it shows strength for Conclave, and I think maybe in some ways it could show a little bit more strength in Best Picture. I don't know. This is going to be such an unpredictable race from here on out, but I do think if there's anything we can, lock and set in stone, it is Conclave winning this award. And that will lead me to the nominees for Best Original Screenplay, which are Anora, written by Sean Baker; The Brutalist, written by Brady Corbet and Mona Fastvold; A Real Pain, written by Jesse Eisenberg; September 5, written by Moritz Binder, Tim Feldbaum, co-written by Alex David; and The Substance, written by Coralie Fanjean. Now, yet again, this category, as to be expected, but come on. I haven't even seen it, but September 5 over Challengers, really? It is just so unfortunate that Challengers got absolutely goose-egged this morning, because I think everyone in their right mind really would agree that that's one of the best movies from last year. Is it because it came out in April, or is it because they just don't care? Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know. I think that probably hurt Dune in the screenplay coming out in late February, but my goodness, this is still an overall really solid category, minus that film, even though, I am looking forward to September 5. This really does seem like a margin call situation where it gets that lone screenplay nomination, and that's that. Even though some people thought it was going to get Best Picture and it didn't. But anyways, I really do think that this is a little bit of a, interesting category. Very glad to see Coralie Fanjean get in here for The Substance. I think it goes to show that structure is everything. And, you don't necessarily have to have great dialogue to have a great screenplay. Unlike A Real Pain, which has so much great dialogue and is just such a very well, thought out and thoroughly complex film from an emotional standpoint. Really glad to see Jesse Eisenberg get his due here. Shout out to Jesse Eisenberg for such a great film. And, that's the thing. Like, I feel like that film could win. It's been winning a lot of screenplay awards, even though it didn't ultimately end up getting into Best Picture. I do think Eisenberg has a lot of strength in this category going towards him. And also Sean Baker for Anora, who is the perceived frontrunner to win this. And of course, Sean Baker is one of the, absolute best filmmakers of the past 10 years. And I really do think he's been making so many transgressive films in portraying the communities that often don't have this sort of light and visibility shed onto them. And I do think Anora is such a tightly woven and subtle screenplay that is so rewarding every time you watch it, at least every time you come back to it, I think. And he'd be definitely deserving to win this award. But I also wonder if Brady Corbet and Mona Fasold could win for The Brutalist, because to me that is the movie that I would pick to win this category. It is such a complex, monumental epic with so many ideas, so much subtle character work, so many thought-provoking ideas flowing throughout every single second of its 3.5-hour runtime. And I just think the way it comes together, it doesn't give you all the answers, but if you are willing to go back to it and unpack the mysteries that lie within, I really do think The Brutalist is the most rewarding screenplay in that regard out of these 5 nominees. And so, even though I think The Brutalist is the one I'm rooting for, I do think that both of them could win. I do think I'm going to go with Sean Baker for Anora, because it just does seem kind of hard to bet against, and it seems like this whole year has been at least, kind of building up to this moment to finally give Sean Baker his flowers at the Oscars. And even if Anora doesn't win Best Picture, I think that this is the category that it really does have a very, very good chance of winning in. Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff here, and that, of course, is the acting races, which I look forward to more than anything every year. And starting off with Best Supporting Actor, we have Yura Borisov in Anora, Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain, Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice. This was the 5 I predicted. I'm not surprised by any of these nominees at all, and I think that this is a great list overall. All these guys, even though Ed Norton, I wouldn't put him in my 5, and I wouldn't even put Yura Borisov in there either. I really do think that these are very deserving performances. I'm really glad, actually, to see Yura Borisov make it all the way to the Oscars. Apparently, he's the first Russian actor in almost 50 years to be nominated for an Oscar, so props to you, Yura. I mean, you absolutely deserved it. You killed the role of Igor, and I'm really glad to see you here. Same thing with Guy Pearce. Really glad to see him finally get his first Oscar nomination. After seeing The Brutalist again, I was thoroughly convinced that he was deserving of a slot in this 5. But to me, the most exciting part about this whole, nomination pool is Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice, because as soon as I saw that movie, I'm like, the Academy would absolutely be out of their mind to snub him as Roy Cohn, who I've heard is the most accurate portrayal of Roy Cohn to ever be performed in any capacity. So it's really nice to see him here, especially against his Succession co-star Kieran Culkin. So you got the Succession boys duking it out for the Oscar in this category, even though I think this is easily Kieran Culkin's award to lose. I think that that is the supporting performance of the year. You could argue he's lead, he's basically in the whole movie. But I really do think that if anyone deserves to win this award, it's Kieran Culkin, and I think he will win pretty easily. It's a little unfortunate, of course, that Clarence Macklin didn't get nominated for Sing Sing. I would have taken out Edward Norton and put him into that 5th slot. But yet again, Edward Norton is great in A Complete Unknown, and that movie really surged at the right moment, which we will get into momentarily. But yeah, I really do think that this is a pretty predictable category, if there ever was one, but one that I feel quite solidified with. And also for these acting categories, I'd like to give who I would have nominated for these 5 slots, and who I would have picked for Best Actor in a Supporting Role: Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain, Mark Edelstein for Anora, who I thought was the standout of that film, John Earl Jelks for Exhibiting Forgiveness, Clarence Macklin in Sing Sing, and of course Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice. And I will have to give a special shout out to someone who wasn't eligible for the Oscars, but that would be Omara Estegal in Andragogy, which if he was eligible in that film, then I would have put him into my top 5 as well. And then that will bring us to Best Supporting Actress, which, I have a lot to say about that one. And the nominees are Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande in Wicked, Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. So this category, this was a shit show. No one knew what to predict here. I predicted Jamie Lee Curtis after she got the BAFTA and SAG nomination for The Last Showgirl. But Monica Barbaro triumphed overall, which is kind of insane. I mean, look, she is really good in that movie as Joan Baez. I mean, just the way she captures her voice is really, really quite incredible. A lot of good work went into this performance. But I don't know. It's not a bad nomination at all, but I mean, Daniel Deadwyler, are you really going to stiff this woman once again? It is absolutely fucking ridiculous to me how much the Academy apparently hates her, even though that would be the performance I'd pick to win Best Supporting Actress. So that is absolutely asinine to me. I knew it was going to happen, but she did get the SAG nomination, and so here was hope to that, but so did Monica Barbaro. And I don't really think she got any other precursors, so this was a big deal, and I think once again shows just how strong A Complete Unknown is, which we're going to get into even more. But it is just mind-blowing to me how that ended up being the case. And, yet again, though, not a bad nomination. I do think she's great in the movie. Maybe just not as strong as some of the other people in this category. Same thing with Isabella Rossellini. I mean, she shows up, she has one great scene, she's very memorable, but yet again, I just don't know if I felt that was enough for an Oscar nomination. And people were right to have called me out and saying that Danielle Deadwyler would have missed the Oscar nomination over her. But it is nice to see a veteran like herself get nominated, especially with the pedigree. I mean, her mother has 3 Oscars, one of the most iconic actresses from the golden age of Hollywood. And so, nice to finally see her recognized. Really happy to see Felicity Jones got in. They could have easily snubbed her, but they didn't. They did their homework. They watched The Brutalist. They gave it 10 nominations, and I'm very happy that Felicity Jones was one of them. And even though I think I would pick Felicity Jones to win in this category, there's going to be a lot of debate whether, she could win. But even so, I do think the momentum right now is certainly with Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. I think that is one of the awards that Emilia Perez is almost guaranteed to win, even though if Felicity Jones wins at BAFTA, I will definitely be looking out for her, and because she is the most deserving amongst this bunch, in my opinion. But here's the thing, I mean, the AI controversy with the Hungarian dialogue does make me question whether that will hurt Felicity Jones in the long run. I certainly think it could, but here's the thing. We don't know how everyone in the Academy feels about the stuff with The Brutalist, which we will talk about a little bit more, of course, when we get to Best Actor. But even so, I think that Saldana has just too much momentum behind her, and so does Emilia Perez, and I really do think, even though I wouldn't put her in my 5. I think she's really great in this movie, and I think she's had quite the career narrative to build up to this moment, and I'd be okay with her winning. But regardless, I mean, this race was crazy. I don't know what else to say. I'm leaving it at that. And so for Best Supporting Actress, I would have gone with Danielle Deadwyler in The Piano Lesson, of course. Anjanou Ellis in Exhibiting Forgiveness, who wasn't nominated for Nickel Boys, and I thought she absolutely should have been, even though Nickel Boys got into some of the big categories. Yet again, just for a collective body of work, she absolutely deserved the nomination. I'd also go with Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, Natasha Lyonne in His Three Daughters, and Tilda Swinton in Problemista, which I thought was one of the best comedic supporting turns of the entire year. Oh boy, now we get to Best Actor in a Leading Role, and the nominees are Adrian Brody in The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, Ray Fiennes in Conclave, and Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. I had a feeling this was going to happen. I should have taken out Daniel Craig, but I didn't, because The SAG-5 is often a hard stat to bet against, but they went with Sebastian Stan. And it makes sense because we had a feeling Jeremy Strong was going to get nominated for his performance as Roy Cohn. And Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump, I mean, very much a hot button topic right now, and I have many thoughts on that I am absolutely scared out of my mind about. But here's the thing, if we're breaking it down from a performance standpoint, even as much as I would love to see Craig in this lineup, it is really unfortunate that Craig has still not gotten his first Oscar nomination. I would have honestly taken out Ralph Fiennes and put in Daniel Craig for Queer, but there's so much momentum behind Conclave. It's one of the front runners for Best Picture. You knew it wasn't going to happen. But I think if there was anyone deserving of an Oscar nomination this year, it is definitely Sebastian Stan. I mean, he won the Golden Globe for A Different Man, which he's tremendous in. And he gives his 2 career best performances in those films. And I am so glad that he got nominated for his performance as Donald Trump, because this is such a thoroughly convincing portrayal of the man, and really, really quite terrifying in a lot of ways. I really do think that this was the right move, and I really do think, as of, a collective body of work for the past year, I'm really glad to see Sebastian Stan finally got his first Oscar nomination as Donald Trump in The Apprentice. Now, the other nominees, all to be expected, of course, and when it comes down to the win, you really have to ask, who is going to be the one to come out on top? Because I think the 2 contenders out in front are obviously Timothée Chalamet and Adrien Brody for The Brutalist. But there's been a lot of backlash for Adrien Brody with the AI and the Hungarian dialogue. Now, yet again, to me, this should be a non-issue. I mean, I do think bringing AI into a creative space is quite a slippery slope, and I have a lot of reservations when it comes to that. But this is just like fixing vowels in like literally what would probably be less than 1% of the movie. This takes absolutely nothing away from the tremendous, monumental performance that Adrien Brody gave in The Brutalist, which to me is an all-time great film performance. Like, I really don't see how he could lose the Oscar outside of this controversy, except for the fact that Timothée Chalamet has so much goodwill going towards him in A Complete Unknown and just in his career in general. And if he wins, he will break the record for the youngest actor to win Best Actor in a Leading Role from Adrien Brody in The Pianist. So there's a lot on the line for Brody in this category. But I still am predicting him to win, because I just think that this performance is too monumental for the Oscars to pass up. And as good as A Complete Unknown did with that surge in nominations, The Brutalist still got 10 at the end of the day. So it's not like the Academy is adverse to this movie at all. And I certainly don't think that they will be adverse to rewarding Adrien Brody and giving him his second Oscar win. And I don't think anyone else really deserves to win in this category, and that's that. So, yeah, I do still think that Adrien Brody will win the Oscar, but only time will tell to see how people react to this controversy going forward. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about that in the comments below, of course, once we get to the end of the video. And who I personally would put into Best Actor would be Adrien Brody for The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig in Queer, Andre Holland in Exhibiting Forgiveness, and Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. So you see 3 nominations for Exhibiting Forgiveness. I really, really thought the ensemble cast of the film was absolutely spectacular, and I do hope at some point Andre Holland does get some Oscar recognition. But of course, I would have to go with Adrien Brody for The Brutalist, who I think should absolutely win the Oscar. And now we get to one of the most absolutely competitive races this year at the Academy Awards, and that is Best Actress. And the nominees are Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon and Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison for Honora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. This was the 5 I predicted, and I'm not really surprised by any of them. And look, there are so many groundbreaking stats. I mean, first off, congrats to Demi Moore for finally making it into a lineup like this. I really do think she has such a great career narrative behind her and a career-defining performance. So really happy to see her make the cut. Of course, I have to talk about Carlos Sofia Gascon being the first transgender woman nominated for Best Actress, in a nomination that I do think is quite deserved, because I thought she was the best part of Emilia Perez, so that was pretty monumental that this finally happened. It was about time, and I think it happened with the right person. And then, of course, we have to talk about Fernanda Torres, because, man, honestly, I thought after she won the Globe, I'm like, yep, she's definitely getting nominated. I didn't care what people said. I knew that this was going to happen. It's an extremely hard stat to bet against. But now I'm wondering, could she win? Because here's the thing. First off, the second Brazilian actress to be nominated for any Oscar after her mother, Fernanda Montenegro, and Central Station almost 30 years ago. And so that's pretty amazing to have that pedigree. And also, they are the first mother and daughter duo to be nominated for Best Actress after Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli. Like, that is insane to me. And part of me wonders now, could she do what Liza Minnelli did and achieve what her mother never accomplished? Could she win Best Actress like she did for Cabaret? I really wonder, because now that we know this is a contender in Best Picture, you really have to question. I really do think that this is going to be the most competitive race this entire Oscar season, because this really is a three-way horse race between Demi Moore, Mikey Madison and Honora, and Fernanda Torres. I really do not know who's going to win, and that's exciting because I feel like any one of them would be deserving. And yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a tough call to make, obviously, but I just want to see how the awards rack up. Right now I'm going with Demi Moore, but I really wouldn't count out Fernanda Torres, and I certainly wouldn't count out Mikey Madison for this. I don't know. I think this is going to be the most exciting race this entire season, and I think the unpredictability of this award season is what makes me most excited for this particular category. But if I were going to pick my nominees for Best Actress, they would be Amy Adams in Night Bitch, Olivia Colman in Wicked Little Letters, Lily Rose Depp for Nosferatu, Mikey Madison in Honora, and Demi Moore in The Substance. So, yeah, I don't know. I really do think that it is unfortunate that Amy Adams could not squeeze in this year, because I thought it was her career best performance in Night Bitch, even though the movie's been kind of splitting people. Very, very unfortunate. Lily Rose Depp gives some of the most insane and demanding physical acting and emotional acting I've seen all of last year. And yeah, I really do think those were a couple missed opportunities. It's unfortunate not to see Marianne Jean-Baptiste, because she was absolutely worthy of getting nominated for this. But yet again, I mean, it was hard to bet against this 5, and it's going to be hard to figure out who's going to win this. But I will still say Demi Moore at the end of the day. We'll see how that pans out. And now we crack into the field for Best Director. And the nominees for Best Director are Sean Baker for Honora, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, and Coralie Fanjean for The Substance. My goodness, this race was a little unpredictable. And let me just say, James Mangold, very solid filmmaker, made one of the greatest comic book movies of all time with Logan. Got nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for that. But who is watching A Complete Unknown and outside of the acting thinks that this is one of the best directed movies of the year over Dune Part 2, Denis Villeneuve? That is one of the greatest fucking snubs in the history of the Academy Awards. He should win that award. I don't care. I really think that this is absolute bullshit to think that somehow him, and especially Jacques Audiard, don't even get me started. I knew it was going to happen anyway. Like, Mangold at least has earned his due, even though I don't agree with nominating directors just because they earned, a career narrative. Jacques Audiard is one of the most inconsiderate directors ever when it comes to authentically portraying what he set out to do and the people he set out to represent. Because he literally has never been to Mexico and has been pushing these narratives that a lot of trans people don't agree with. And I enjoyed the movie overall, but it is, one, also a total clusterfuck, and there's no reason Jacques Audiard should be in this conversation. I think we can all agree on that, right? It is absolutely insane to me that this movie has gotten so much acclaim, especially for Best Director. This is one of the most undeserving Best Director nominations in the history of the Academy Awards. There, I said it. And I don't think anyone would disagree with me, because Denis Villeneuve, what he accomplished with Dune Part 2, is one of the greatest feats in the history of cinema. I just think from a filmmaking standpoint, the scope, everything about it is so well crafted that it absolutely boggles my fucking mind that we would put in Jacques Audiard over him. But the fact that Mangold got in over some really big contenders, like Edward Berger, who I think that movie is so expertly directed and blocked, it kind of blows my mind he didn't get in. I mean, I'm not entirely shocked, but I'm shocked for who was put in above him. And Ramel Ross, even though I had my issues with how Nickel Boys was directed in regards to the POV, I still think it would have been a more worthy achievement than James Mangold in A Complete Unknown. So this list is almost kind of nonsensical to me, but what really does make sense more than anything is the fact that Coralie Fajon got in for The Substance, which is one of the most bold, audacious, and visually stunning movies that I've seen in a long time. I mean, there is not a film that stylistically looks like that one. Ever. And I really do think that this was more than a deserved Best Director nomination. I'm glad to see her crack the field for a body horror movie. This has never happened in the history of in almost 100 years. This was one of the fucking most based things the Academy has ever done, despite the horrible nomination pool. I really do think Coralie Fajon was more than deserving of this Best Director nomination. And Sean Baker for Nora, I wouldn't have him in my 5, and I'll tell you who I think my 5 would be, but I think is very well deserved for the career he's amassed for himself and how he works with his actors and how he goes about making movies. It might not be the most visually stunning movie of the year, but I certainly think that the hard work that he put into it with the cast and crew is more than worthy of a nomination. But to me, I think this is a no-brainer as to who should win, who I would pick to win, and out of who was nominated, of course, and that is Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. We don't see movies like this anymore. This really felt like we were being spoiled watching The Brutalist, watching this 3.5 hour, multiple decade-spanning movie that tackles so many weighty ideas on such a large scope but done on such a minimal budget. This is a massive cinematic achievement like no other, and even though there have been the criticisms with The Brutalist that have been coming out, I really don't think this will hurt his chances in winning this award, because like, who else would you give it to? Really, I mean, I guess Coralie, but I don't think The Substance has that kind of juice like The Brutalist has, like what Brady Corbet did with this astounding cinematic achievement. But if I were picking the 5 best nominees for Best Director, they would be as follows: Edward Berger for Conclave, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Robert Eggers for Nosferatu, Coralie Fajon for The Substance, and of course, Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. So they got it pretty close in some regards, and obviously you can't really argue against Sean Baker being there, but Jacques Audiard, oh my goodness, why is this movie taking off like a rocket? I do not understand, but we'll get into that in a little bit once we get to Best Picture. And of course, we get to the ever so coveted and biggest category of the Academy Awards every single year, and that is Best Picture. And the nominees are as follows: Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. What? This had to be the biggest surprise lineup of the entire morning. After getting 3 nominations, Sing Sing Miss. After getting Screenplay and Supporting Actor, Real Pain is out. But we still got Nickel Boys in the picture, which really shows that there is quite a passion for that film that really has been felt throughout the Academy, even though, as I said in my review, I thought it was going to be like Women Talking, and it was. And that is absolutely fine, because I really do think that this is a worthy Best Picture nominee. It is such a bold and visionary film, the likes of which we have never seen in this manner, and I really do think that it was deserved. I would have picked A Real Pain, but, you know, that's how it is. But still, I'm still here. Man, if there was ever a movie to have benefited from the horrible tragedy that's going on in LA, and of course my heart goes out to those affected by the wildfires there, I really do think that this gave a lot of time for people to watch this movie and carefully consider while voting for it, especially the actors branch. One has to wonder if they pushed it in the Best Picture, because now you really have to consider whether Fernanda Torres could actually win Best Actress and if this could actually win Best International Feature Film. But that's the thing, Emilia Perez has 13 godforsaken nominations. I really have no idea why. It's the most nominated film at the ceremony, and one has to really think that it is the front runner to win International Feature, but also one has to wonder, is it the front runner to win Best Picture? I mean, I certainly hope it's not. La La Land got 14 nominations, the record-tying number, and it still didn't win Best Picture. If I had to guess, The Brutalist could be out front, because that got a good 10 nominations. But I really think that this is such a toss-up this year. I still feel like Anora is in contention to win Best Picture. I certainly think The Brutalist could be the front runner, which I would say I'm predicting right now. But also don't count out Conclave, because Emilia Perez is such a wildly derided and really divisive movie. I feel like Conclave is pretty well liked all across the board. I mean, I would definitely put it near the top of the list to win Best Picture, but I don't know. Who is to say? I mean, this race is so chaotic. Right now, I'll just say The Brutalist. That's all. Because I really don't want to manifest Emilia Perez winning Best Picture into existence. I really don't. It's better than Crash, but I mean, let's be honest, it will be the worst Best Picture winner since Crash. And I really don't think that it's going to hold up in the years to come, and I certainly don't think it's aged well now. So I don't know what happened here, but I really am beyond surprised by the nomination for I'm Still Here. I mean, Brazil has really kind of manifested this into existence, I feel. And yeah, I mean, definitely one of my least favorite out of the nominees, but I'm willing to give it a shot again after all this hype, because more than anything, I'm just happy that Brazil got their moment to shine. I mean, this is one of the few Brazilian movies to be nominated for Best Picture. Of course, in a field of 5, Central Station couldn't get in. So yeah, I mean, this is a big moment, and I'm happy for Walter Salles and Fernanda Torres and everybody. So I don't know. This is going to be such an unpredictable season to get to for the rest of the year. We don't know what is going to happen, and there is quite a thrill and excitement about it, as long as it's not Emilia Perez. But regardless, I really do think that this was quite an interesting Oscar nomination morning. There could have been a lot more egregious snubs, and I think a lot of them that are absolutely egregious I already made peace with, like Denis Villeneuve, even though I still get mad about it, of course. So it could have been a lot worse. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the Oscar nominees for the 97th Academy Awards. What did you think about this crop of nominees? Are you really against Emilia Perez as much as everyone else? Do you think The Brutalist is going to win? Do you think something else is going to win? Do you think Fernanda Torres is going to win now? Please let me know all that and more down in the comments below. And please smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. I'm not going to be doing a prediction video because this essentially is going to be my stand-in for that. But I will be doing a follow-up video after the Academy Awards talking about all the wins that occurred and so on and so forth. So until then, please have yourselves a good one, and we will talk soon.
A Complete Unknown, a screenplay by James Mangold and Jay Cox. Conclave, screenplay by Peter Strawn. Emilia Perez.
Fuck! Fuck!
Collaboration with Thomas Bideguet,
Bullshit!
Monsieur and Nicolas
No Dune? You fucking bastards.